Good morning to you. My name is Crystal and I'm from Group 19. So today we'd like to discuss more about inclusive justice in rape law, specifically on male rape and male sexual assault. So first of all, what is male sexual abuse and what is male sexual harassment? Male sexual abuse is the unwanted, non-consensual sexual assault or behavior forced upon a man or a boy. So this would include rape, attempted rape, sexual assault, such as touching, groping, or being coerced or manipulated into sex. As for sexual harassment is the unwanted sexual attention or behavior, such as making sexually explicit jokes, comments, gestures, repeated sexual advances, and the sharing of explicit images without consent. So, why does this all matter? There is a myth, a social stigma, that men cannot be rape victims. But the truth is, men can and men would be rape victims. Men can be forced or manipulated into sex against their will, just like women. Because of this, research on male rape laws has specifically gained increased academic attention over the years.
Greetings everyone, I'm Chao Sim. I'll continue with how rape is defined under Malaysian law. Section 375 of the Penal Code defines rape as a man having sexual intercourse with a woman against her will or without her consent. There are several situations where consent is considered absent, including when the victim consents due to fear of death or harm, misconception of fact, when she mistakenly believes the man is her lawful husband, or when she is unable to understand the nature or consequences, or when the man abuses a position of authority. Importantly, even with consent, if the girl is under 16, it is considered statutory rape. Beyond this section, there are several other provisions related to sexual offences. Section 376 imposes punishment for rape. Section 377A defines carnal intercourse against the order of nature. Section 377C criminalizes non-consensual carnal intercourse against the order of nature. However, it is important to note that if a man is raped by another man, his legal recourse is under this section, but this section does not define the act as rape. While it technically recognizes non-consent for sodomy, male rape victims remain excluded from the rape framework under Section 375. Instead, their cases are placed under the unnatural offences label, a term carrying heavy social stigma and mixing consensual and non-consensual acts together. It is important to note that there is no equivalent provision for statutory rape of boys.
Hi everyone, I'm Jian. I'm going to highlight some critical issues in Malaysia's current rape laws, particularly how they fail to protect male survivors and ignore key human rights principles. First, the law has a narrow and outdated definition of rape. Under current legislation, rape only refers to non-consensual penile vaginal penetration. This excludes many victims, especially men, and ignores acts like anal, oral, or object penetration. These are classified separately under sodomy, which carries a different social and legal stigma. Worse, the law does not recognize female perpetrators, reinforcing the idea that women can commit sexual assault. This leaves male victims without justice and recognition. Second, there is a lack of social recognition for male survivors. In Malaysia, rape is often seen as something that only happens to women. This stigma silences male victims, leaving them to deal with shame and fear alone. Public awareness campaigns and crime reports rarely mention male survivors, and the media reinforces harmful ideas that men should always be strong, making it even harder for victims to come forward. Third, there is a serious lack of legal support. Male survivors often face disbelief, mockery, and even trauma during police investigation. Support systems like shelters, counseling, and legal aid are mostly targeted at women, leaving male victims with almost no resources. This systemic neglect makes reporting sexual violence incredibly difficult for men. Fourth, this issue also raises human rights concerns. Malaysia criminalized consensual same-sex conduct, especially under Sharia laws. This contradicts international human rights commitments and can even be considered inhuman treatment. Male survivors, particularly those from the LGBTQ community, often suffer in silence, unable to access justice or safety. Lastly, there is the matter of religious sensitivity. Malaysia's religious laws often punish same-sex relations and gender non-conformity, which includes specific offences like liwat and musahaka. While it's important to respect religious belief, they should never be used to justify discrimination or silence conversation about male sexual violence. A secular legal system must protect all individuals, regardless of gender or sexual orientation. Therefore, Malaysia's rape law urgently need reform. They must be inclusive, gender neutral, or rooted in human rights, ensuring that all survivors, including men and LGBTQ individuals, are seen, heard, and protected.
Under the legal definition of rape provided by Section 1 of the Sexual Offences Act 2003, rape is defined whereby 1. Only a person with a penis can commit rape, 2. The penetration must be by the penis, and 3. There must be a lack of reasonable belief in consent. So other sexual offences which are more relevant to other genders would include these important offences. Section 2, whereby Section 2 is the penetration with any object that is not the penis into the vagina or anus without consent. So this would apply to any gender as the perpetrator or victim. Section 3 is the intentional sexual touching without consent. So this could include groping, fondling, or forced kissing. Section 4 governs that forcing someone to perform sexual acts, for example forced masturbation or oral sex, can be committed by and against any gender in law. The general principles of the law is that consent is the foundation to all sexual offences. It must be freely given and the person must have capacity to consent. The law also recognizes intoxication, coercion, threats, or age as vitiating consent. Up until 1994, male rape was still legislated as non-consensual buggery. Sex between men at that time was considered unnatural and usually associated with bestiality, thus distorting the boundaries between what is consensual and what is not consensual. It was only with the introduction of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act in 1994 that men started being included in rape legislation, laying down the foundation for our current England framework, which is the Sexual Offences Act 2003. After 1994, more male rape cases were reported. In a research study recorded in the Journal of Criminal Law, in 1994, there were a total of 150 cases reported. But in 2004 to 2005, there was a total of 1,135 cases reported. This would actually suggest a shift in social stigma against male rape victims. In law now, men and boys can be victims of rape. Female perpetrators, however, would be charged for all offences except for rape due to the requirement of penal penetration. However, they may still face charges under Section 2 or Section 4. Are there actually limitations in the current England framework? In our legal system right now, the legal definition of rape is gendered, whereby only someone with a penis can be charged with rape. This would exclude cases where a woman forces a man to penetrate her, as this would be charged under Section 4, which may be minimized as a lesser charge and would prove unfair to the male victim. Practical limitations would include underreporting by male victims due to societal pressures. They may feel scared or they may feel shame of actually reporting to the police or law enforcement officers.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoe and I will be comparing the laws of rape in Malaysia and England and Wales. First, a significant fundamental difference can be seen in the words used in the legal definition by both jurisdictions. It can be seen that Malaysia uses a gender-specific definition, whereas England and Wales have a more inclusive and gender-neutral definition for rape. From the definitions, we can see that English law covers a broader range of victims, ensuring that potential victims, both men and women, are legally recognized and have equal access to legal protections. However, as far as a male victim is concerned in Malaysia, the charge of rape does not apply to the offender because of the words used in the definition. Male victims are not recognized by Malaysian law. Malaysia remains outdated when it comes to the law of rape. The law is still of a traditional view that only men can be perpetrators and only women can be victims of rape. A Malaysian news reported that the Malaysian legal system has left out male rape victims in respect of the recognition and justice they deserve. Said by the criminal lawyer Dinesh Muttal, rape shouldn't be a gender-specific crime. The law should protect both genders against any violation of human rights. Conversely, in view of the law of rape in England and Wales, legal reform to include men as victims of rape has begun as early as the mid-1990s, where more and more psychiatrists and medical professionals brought male victims to the attention of police and legislatures. The law in England and Wales reflects contemporary understandings of rape, as they have eliminated outdated gender stereotypes, unlike Malaysia. In terms of the punishment for rape, in Malaysia, a punishment of up to 20 years imprisonment and whipping can be imposed according to Section 376 of the Penal Code. Whipping is, however, discretionary, not mandatory. Whereas in England and Wales, rape is a serious, indictable only offence. In determining the punishment, the court will take into account various factors such as the age of the offender and the harm caused to the victim. The typical range of sentence for rape is between 4 to 19 years imprisonment, but the maximum sentence can go up to life imprisonment. However, in practice, they usually serve a custodial term of 15 years and will be released on license. If they were to commit another crime, they will be called back to prison. There's a strong societal stigma in Malaysia that boys can't be raped and males should not show vulnerability. This stigma has strongly discouraged male victims from reporting sexual assault, and as a result, they are not seen. The law's failure to recognize male rape victims legally reinforces this silence and invisibility. In England and Wales, although stigma around male rape still exists, legal recognition and support services have helped reduce isolation and disbelief. Male victims are now being taken more seriously and supported.
The legal recognition of male rape victims varies across jurisdictions. In India, the recent enactment of Bharati Nyaya Sanhita repeals Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, which covers non-consensual same-sex acts without adding replacement protection. The rape offence under Section 63 still focuses solely on female victims. Next, in Singapore, Section 375 sub 1 of the Penal Code defines rape as penile vaginal penetration, similar to Malaysia. Although newer provisions like Section 375 sub 1A and 376, which amended by the Criminal Law Reform Act, cover male victims in related offences, they fall outside the formal rape definition. In the UK, although the law requires a male perpetrator, the victim can be any gender. Non-penal penetrative assaults or cases where men are forced to penetrate are governed under separate provisions, but these are not labelled as rape. In New South Wales, Australia, male victims are fully recognised under the main sexual assault statute. While it no longer uses the term rape, Section 61I of the Crimes Act defines sexual assault as sexual intercourse without consent using gender-neutral language. This includes penile, oral, or anal penetration by any body part or object. Although the formal term rape is not used, the law provides equivalent protection for all victims. While some jurisdictions now recognize male victims in their main sexual assault laws, Malaysia continues to exclude male victims, female perpetrators, and same-sex sexual violence from the rape framework, highlighting the need for legal reform to ensure equal protection for all. Now, these are some counter-arguments often raised when considering male rape law reforms. Firstly, it may clashes with deeply rooted cultural and religious norms. Updating the law can complicate how cases are prosecuted and categorized, and it requires retraining police, prosecutors, and judges. Some worry that it may dilute the focus on protecting women in patriarchal societies. However, many scholars suggest we can adopt inclusive feminist approaches that protect all victims without undermining women's rights. Lastly, India's repeals show how incomplete reforms can unintentionally leave victims even more vulnerable. These are the challenges, but it also shows why reforms must be carefully designed so that no victim group is left behind.
Hi everyone, my name is Fion, and I'll be discussing the last part, which is the 5 urgent legal reforms to help ensure male victims of rape are properly and well protected under the Malaysian law. First, we need to change the legal definitions of rape under Section 375 and make it to be more and more gender neutral. As right now, only men can commit a rape and only women can be the victims of rape. However, England and Wales updated their law in 2003 to reflect that rape is actually all about non-consensual penetrations rather than gender, and Malaysia should do the same. Secondly, Section 377C, used only for male victims, is completely outdated and now become problematic. It frames male rape as against the order of nature, which carries serious social stigma, and these sections needs to be either modernized or to be replaced by a more neutral and inclusive provisions. Thirdly, we should introduce a specific offence for assault by penetrations like the UK, as not all sexual assault involve a penis, as the other forms of penetrations can also be equally traumatic. Fourth, penalties should be equal regardless of the victim's gender as well, as rape under Section 375 gets harsher sentences compared to cases under Section 377C, and we need to ensure that all victims receive equal justice. So finally, we must provide a better support for male victims, as many of them suffer in silence due to shame or fear as well, and the law alone is not enough. We need compassion and system that works for them, like for example, trained officers, male-sensitive trauma cares, and also public awareness campaign will work. Now, it's time for us to face the truth that rape is not a gendered crime, and the law must reflect that, as every survivor, regardless of their gender, deserve justice, dignity, as well as protections. By learning from progressive systems like England and Wales, Malaysia has a real chance to build a fairer and more inclusive legal frameworks. So the law must change because justice should belong to everyone. Thank you.